Do you guys see what I'm seeing here? Look closely, zoom in a little bit. You see that? It says right there that I'm exactly 7 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers at the moment I'm recording this video. And I know what you're doing right now. You, the viewer, I know you're not subscribed. You're watching the video, but you haven't clicked that button. I can tell. Do yourself a favor, and do me a favor. Click the button. Or else. Don't make me say it again. Anyways, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. My name is LionHeartZ, and today we're going to be talking about some breaking news in the Counter-Strike world. Virtus.pro has shocked everybody by making the superstar acquisition of Electronic from Cloud9, replacing Mir. This stunning move leaves us with a lot of questions, especially about where this positions Virtus.pro in the world. Are Cloud9 dead in the water? Is Electronic going to fit into the VP system, or will Jame have to adjust to how he plays to make Electronic work? Today we're going to go deep on this roster change, what it means for both teams, and how VP stacks up against some of the very best in the world going forward. So make sure you take a second, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I already threatened you in the beginning, all that jazz. Make sure you follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ1337. I stream Sunday through Friday, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, linked in the description down below. And let's get started with the commentary. Alright, firstly, let's talk brass tacks. VP add Electronic, they drop Mir, and as of right now, Cloud9 have not made a signing in replacement of Electronic. On the face of it, I think Virtus.pro have acquired a superstar rifler in Electronic. He's definitely not the same as his prime around 2019, but his impact in CS2 thus far has been incredible. It doesn't seem like he's lost much of a step. He's still that same old aggressive player that we know and love when he played alongside Simple. For Virtus.pro, this seems like a slam dunk. They're dropping their lowest rated player in Mir, who really underperformed, especially in tournaments like the Major, and they still get to keep this core of Flit, Fame, and Norbert, which thus far has played really well together. Looking at the stats of Virtus.pro before they add Electronic, what we can see here is that Mir is definitely the lowest performing player. Everyone else has an above 1.0 rating, while he hovers right at 1.0 and dips below in some of the recent tournaments. And most importantly, his kill-death differential was pretty low, and his impact on the server really felt non-existent, especially at the Major. When we move over to Electronic, I would say he's been in a little bit of a rut in the last 3 months, and considering that he still averages a 1.11 rating through that time, I think that really speaks to his potential and what we've seen in the past. At his peak, again, this is a top 5 rifler in Counter-Strike, and I do believe he can reach back into that form with a fresh look and fresh team like Virtus.pro. Now, before we dive too deeply into how Virtus.pro need to utilize Electronic, I want to briefly talk about Cloud9. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels like I curled a monkey's paw here because it's been exactly 10 days since I made a video talking about how positively I felt about this Cloud9 roster, how I wanted to see them hold it together, maybe find a replacement, continue the experiment they had going on because the recent run of form had been pretty good. And they immediately went to IEM Chengdu, bombed out, looked really bad, and now their best player has left in free agency. So has the Cloud9 experiment failed? Well, it's been blown the fuck up, so I don't really know. As of right now, no long-term replacement has been signed to fill Electronic's void, but honestly, looking at the current market, I think we're in a position where Cloud9 might just blow this roster up entirely. Who are they going to get in free agency that could possibly match the caliber of player that Electronic is? Who is a Russian-speaking superstar rifler that's currently available that's worth the money to invest into? I can't think of any names who aren't tied up in other teams. And when you look at the international market, it's not looking much better. Again, comparable talent is all signed up into long-term projects. So really, I think this might be the end of this Cloud9 roster. I think they're going to get split up. Cloud9's going to have to rework it again. These players are going to go elsewhere, which is kind of sad because, again, I think there was a lot of potential in this core. But my lamentations aside, let's talk about Virtus.pro, which I definitely think is looking a lot more positive. Now, it's no secret that I really did not like this Virtus.pro lineup. I made that very clear throughout my coverage of the Major and my coverage of IEM Chengdu. Pretty much anytime I've talked about Virtus.pro, I've made it very clear that I do not like this team, namely because of the playstyle. I think the way that Jame chooses to play the game at a snail's pace to prioritize his op and his saves is detrimental to the outcomes of this team. A lot of people consider this team to be a legitimate threat, a title contender, but over the last year they've done absolutely nothing with it. And I think part of it comes down to that this Virtus.pro team was designed to beat down on lesser teams, but as soon as they get matched with comparable opponents or better opponents, the playstyle falls apart. I don't know what you're supposed to do with all this playing slow and prioritizing saves when you have someone like Donk bunny hopping through the server like he's cheating and just taking your head off at the speed of sound. Aggression is one of the best strategies in Counter-Strike when done right, and it can punish teams that play too slow, and no one plays slow like Virtus.pro. So to me, on the surface, I feel like Electronic is throwing a monkey wrench into how Virtus.pro likes to play Counter-Strike. He's notoriously aggressive on the T side, and he loves to take space on the CT side. He's someone who does not want to play slow. So what I'm really hoping is that we see Virtus.pro go to a happy medium. I think Jame is a good enough in-game leader to make this work. He can use Electronic to timely take map control and play around their slow pace. But at the end of the day, what they really need is the firepower to explode into bomb sites late on the T side. The problem with slow play and Counter-Strike is once it gets down to crunch time, you're under a minute and you need to execute and take the bomb site. If you do not have the firepower to blow up into stacks or counter utility, you're dead in the water because there's no more opportunity to rotate. You're out of time, you're out of resources. So now, the new look Virtus.pro could approach their T side by running down the clock and then using Electronic, Flit, Fame, Norbert to blow up these bomb sites. This firepower in totality I think is actually really scary for the current meta. Especially at the Major, Flit showed really great flashes of being able to take over bomb sites single-handedly, so you give him a great player like Electronic right behind him to also help him blow up those bomb sites, I think Virtus.pro get a lot more scary. Now there are definitely some concerns. The biggest one to me is that I wonder if it's going to take time for Electronic to get used to how Virtus.pro like to play. Is he going to get caught out trying to take too much map control too early for how they want to approach their T side? If Electronic gets cut out, suddenly there's a lot less room for them to work that map control and win the round later on. I also want to see Jame experiment more with having more fast rounds in the back pocket. I would like to see this team shift their pace more often. With this core of riflers, I think they can play fast and loose on some rounds. Frankly, it should terrify any CT side to face the prospect of Flit, Fame, and Electronic running into your bomb site with Jame back in the wings with the AWP in hand. That's going to be very deadly to counter without really timely counter utility and good trades from the CT. As for the CT side, I really have no concerns with this Virtus.pro team going forward. I think they will have incredibly strong CT setups because Electronic has always been a great side anchor. You put him in his spots and he does well. Like, he just does his job, he plays great off his teammates, and he's going to get you the picks when he needs to as long as his game is on. When I look at the potential of this roster against the current state of like the top 10 in the world, my biggest concern really isn't the rifle power anymore. It's actually on Jame. Because I think when you look at the top 10 players in the world right now, we're actually pretty front-loaded with top players who are also primary oppers. Players like Brokey, Munacy, Wonderful, Shiro. These guys are extremely impactful for their teams. And the problem might be is that while Virtus.pro is going to stack up very well against the best rifling cores in the world, if Jame can't reach that superstar level of op that he's been in the past, I think this team is going to get picked off by better oppers. Like, to put it in perspective, the former roster of Virtus.pro with Mir already had a nightmare matchup against G2 because Munacy was just that good that he made up for the fact that players like Nico were inconsistent game to game. He was just so transcendent that he would carry G2 through these series because Jame definitely wasn't stopping Munacy and no one else could get even close. So when I look ahead to other matchups like against FaZe and Team Spirit, I really am concerned about that op-b-op matchup. And if ZywOo gets his form back in the next coming tournaments, that's going to be even scarier. As of right now, HOTV in their top 10 has Virtus.pro at number 8 in the world, and I think that's a pretty comfortable ranking for them going into it. With Electronic, how much does this move the needle? Well, right away, Cloud9 is currently ranked 3rd in the world on HOTV. They're gone, they're going to fall off an absolute cliff. So VP gains 1 spot because Cloud9 are 1 foot in the grave. As for everyone else ahead of them, I think they're better than Eternal Fire. Eternal Fire is far too inconsistent for me. I think they're very inflated on this top 10, and I would not have them at 4th in the world. I think that's crazy. As I said a second ago, I think G2 will continue to be a problem matchup for this team, but I think the extra firepower of Electronic could definitely move the needle. VP and G2 have like a grudge match going, especially after the shenanigans at the Major, and every series they've played since then has gone 3 maps. So I think Virtus.pro could actually take a lot of these series going forward. It really depends on how much Munacy and Nico show up in those games. I do think teams like FaZe and Spirit are soundly ahead of Virtus.pro still. I think there's potential for VP to do well in these series depending on personal performance, but I think the raw firepower of these two teams is just better than what Virtus.pro has. As for Vitality, ZywOo has failed to find form in CS2 thus far. If that continues, they're going to keep sliding down the ladder, and Virtus.pro could have a great shot in series against them. If ZywOo comes back to that superstar form we know he can, then Virtus.pro are going to struggle a lot. And finally, we have MOUZ and Na'Vi. Starting off with MOUZ, I think this is a team on the rise, and they should give Virtus.pro a run for their money in every series they play. I would take MOUZ to have the slight edge, so I feel like the firepower of MOUZ is just slightly stronger. And coming off the backs of the Major, I think Na'Vi are going to be riding a high for right now. If JL continues to be the superstar that we saw at the Major, then they're going to beat Virtus.pro, and I think Alexi B is a much better in-game leader than whatever Jame could bring to the table. I would give Na'Vi the edge. Overall, I would have Virtus.pro anywhere from 5th to 7th in the world going forward, with potential to move up based on how other teams perform and whether there's other roster moves to come. They could top out as a top 3 team in the world if Electronic can find some of that great form from back in his days of Na'Vi, and if we see Jame really shift into gear the way we've seen him do in the past. Overall, this is an incredible move for Virtus.pro. It moves the needle quite a lot, and I'm really excited to see them play at their first tournament, which will be the ESL Pro League, which is coming up in a few weeks. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Let me know how you feel about this Virtus.pro team down in the comments down below. Are there any other teams that you would like to see make moves going forward? For me, I would love to see Complexity trying to assemble some more talent around Elige. I want to see Cloud9 rebuild this roster without Electronic, but I just don't think it's going to happen. As for any other team that immediately sticks out to me, that's about it. Those are the 2 teams I want to see make moves the most. Let me know what you have for your roster mania in the comments down below. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help me hit that 1,000 subscribers today, please. Finally, shout out to my channel members, Furley, Justin, and Jesse. I love you guys. Thank you for supporting me constantly. I'll see you soon with another video. Peace.